Hi, I'm Grady Cullen in the CapeCod.com News Center. Welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by a special guest from the Cape Symphony. Can you introduce yourself for our listeners?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Michael Albaugh. I'm the executive director of Your Cape Symphony.
All right, awesome. Now, you are in here early, unfortunately, because last time you were on, we talked about coming back in May. If it unfortunately is April, so that's going to have to be a strike against you. But otherwise, we're happy to see you. Great to have you in the studio again. Wonderful to talk about the upcoming season, as well as what's been going on behind the scenes for the Cape Symphony.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost May.
It
breezes by pretty quickly.
So that's awesome. But so we've gotten a lot going on with this upcoming season. I have the list in front of me of all the awesome shows that are going to be showing up, including the 4th of July.
And
that was
pretty
exciting.
Brochure.
We do. We have props in as well. It's going to be awesome. But of course, there's been a major hunt as of late for the Cape Symphony. You guys are looking for your next artistic director after the departure of Jung Ho Pak, who's been with there for several years now. So I wanted to get a general update of essentially how that is going. I hear you've narrowed it down to a few candidates. If you wanted to kind of give us the overview.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people did ask, how this season's going through. And of course, we have a lot of guests coming in, some of whom have expressed interest for the positions. And we've always sort of referred them as candidates because it's, in some ways we have a very good committee experience working on this one. We decided to put together 5 board members, 5 Cape Symphony musicians, a couple from the staff, and 1 member from the community, to sort of just kind of give an overarching view of what we are looking for in the next music director position. And in this place, we took the time to really ask what we wanted to see fit the role, and how we wanted this institution to evolve. So we're sort of following the Gretzky, Steve Jobs, skate to where the puck is, and or going to be. And with that statement, it's, the committee opened a search window up from September of last year, and we got a couple hundred candidates. And we went through a very detailed process of vetting those candidates. And through that process, we came to like 27. I think we got to 12 with interviews, and then we came down to 5 that we wanted to invite in. And that's what we have in this season. Was we wanted to have it at least down to 5 because we have 5 masterpiece conductors and we have 5 masterpiece concerts, and we figured this was a great way for us to spend the entire season focusing on what they could do. When it came to the rep, our repertoire was actually focused through the committee work, and thanks to Jay Cosmos Lee, who was our concertmaster and managing artistic principal, he really put most of the masterpiece concerts together for this season. And we decided as a committee to go with big pieces because we wanted to get as many musicians in the symphony involved, and giving an opportunity to put some of the big war horses together. And that way it was sort of to even the playing field. That way everybody's, getting a little bit of a concerto, a little bit of guest artist work, and a little bit of a big monster piece to help push forward. And that was kind of the goal with that. So.
Yeah, that is awesome. So as well, these are some. This is a position that has drawn national attention. You've had some very wide-ranging candidates as part of this process. International as well. So I mean, this is something that's pretty big for you guys.
Yes.
So is it going to be a lot of? You've unfortunately gone through a lot of candidates that I'm sure many people are sad that they're not going to get the position. But did you also walk away with some maybe phone numbers for the future?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this process is when Jung Ho announced his departure, we sort of like, okay, well, we've got to fill conductors this season. So it was, we called a lot of people that were in our networks. As you know, 2 of these were people that I have known personally before and have worked with before. And, Francisco Noye, who we just had, who was a wonderful guest. They have all expressed interest. Some of them didn't even know there was a search. And in some ways, the community has sort of responded, are these candidates? It's a long time until next summer of 25 when we're making a decision. The committee has put forth a very list of strong candidates that we all feel if we had any one of these 5, we'd be happy. But also knowing the fact that if someone takes another job, I learned that Farhad, who, has expressed an interest, is already got another big job. So he's in some ways off the table in that respect. And that's something that we realistically have to keep in mind. We do know that of the 5 that we have invited coming in, they have all reached a level that we are excited about. But I've always been telling people too, like, it's a long time. Let's keep an open mind. Much happens in this industry. Things change fast. So I'm just going to encourage people to come to every concert. And as everybody knows me, I stand near the will call table when greeting people when they come in. Stop and talk to me. Tell me what you thought. What's nice is a lot of people email me after the concerts and send notes that express whether they liked, the disliked. And in some ways, we always want to keep guest conductors coming through the ranks. So if somebody who may not have received the job doesn't mean we may not want to include them in the future. I would expect us to see some of them come through. Kevin Fitzgerald is one that we brought back because everybody loved him so much.
Sure.
So we're going through the process. But the 5 candidates we're very excited about.
You don't have to name names, but has there been a few people that you're in the professional sphere with that are like, darn, if I had known you guys were going to be sending out applications, I would have sent something in, but they might have missed the window?
Yeah, there are a few, and unfortunately they missed the window.
Oh, no.
But it's, then again, you never know how things are going to play out.
Sure.
I try to read the tea leaves, keep an open mind. You have to be flexible to be in any industry. You have to have you can't be rigid. You have to, change is the only constant, and you have to be able to, you can't anticipate, sometimes change comes when you least expect it, and you have to be able to react to it, and being able to react to it strategically is something that we are trying, that we feel we do a pretty good job of. I mean, I think the pandemic was the biggest curve that we could have ever achieved, and upon that being my anniversary when I arrived here, it's, I think that we have kind of developed an institutional mindset, and it's good. Everybody's working towards that goal.
That's awesome. Now, this is one of the most public hiring processes that I think I've ever been witness to in my time here on Cape Cod. It's almost like the community at large for the arts of Cape Cod is going to have a say in who we sign up here.
Yep.
Now, it's also very interesting because this is a very public role, even just outside of the Cape Symphony. I mean, Jung Ho Pak would show up at various public events and stuff like that, connect to towns and things. So it's not really just like, oh, this is for the concerts, and then they clock out and we don't see them anymore. So, I mean, are you really going to be searching in terms of that social aspect as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the wonderful things that Jung Ho brought to the organization was, he would show up at events all across the Cape, whether it was the Long Table in Hyannis this last summer, or giving talks to different newcomer groups or at churches or at events. He was always kind to lend his time, even if it was just meeting with students at schools. He did that quite frequently, and that's a good thing about this kind of a role, is that it is a celebrity type of position, because they represent a major part of a large cultural organization. We're the second largest orchestra in Massachusetts, so it's to have that kind of, on your shoulders, and to be an advocate for not just what the orchestra does, but what the institution does. And that's something that we are hoping that each one of these candidates brings to the table. And in that process is the reason why we're reaching out and soliciting to our public. So each candidate will be in for an entire week. They'll spend some time with you, as we've discussed. We'd like to make sure that they do that. If there's questions that people want to ask, and it'll live on the website so people can come back to it, because it will be a full year of discussions. But we're going to have an open rehearsal. So if people want to come to a rehearsal, which many people on the Cape have not been to a rehearsal, behind the scenes, how the orchestra shows get put together. So there will be an opportunity for them to come and watch during a cycle. And there will be opportunities for them to make comments. What did you like? What did you not like? I want their opinions. We did you were asking about some of the pop shows that we have coming up next season. And 2 of the shows, we have a Motown themed show and a salute to the Oscars show that Jay and Cosmos Lee and our assistant conductor Joe Marcio put together. And they're both very excited about it. Those 2 have a great working relationship. But those 2 themes were chosen from the public. We put out our newsletter. If you don't subscribe to our newsletter, please subscribe. It's capesymphony.org, and just click the news, and it goes out religiously every Wednesday at 10, and it tells you everything that's going on at the Symphony, in education, preschool, CSP, all the stuff that we're doing. And we put a poll out, like, ask what were some of your favorite pops concerts that you would like to see the orchestra do. And we got over 400 responses in 8 hours.
Wow.
And I compiled that information. Amy Medeiros, our box office manager and digital marketing specialist, put it all together. And we had a board meeting that night. And we brought it to the board meeting. And there were some themes that we saw come out. And that was the 2 top shows that people said they would come to see. So, we believe in creating and performing art, but we also agree that we want to make sure we perform things that our community also wants to see. Our Pops concerts sell out almost every time. It counts for, we always look at the ratio numbers of revenue per tickets versus shows, and the Pops concerts are almost 95% of the time, they sell. We're on the Masterpiece side, it's 60-65, and that's a huge number. In Philadelphia, where I used to work there at the orchestra, it was like 25. And that's not unusual for big orchestras, but it's because they do other things in the way they're structured. And, if you're like the BSO and you have the endowment they have, again, if you want to donate to the Cape Symphony to help support Cape Symphony endowment, please speak to Charles Turner and capesymphony.org, donate, because building that endowment is how we build sustainability. And that's something that we are consciously working for. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Pops, obviously, there's that era of its familiarity. When I was in the music programs back in school, actually, Jung Ho Park, I went to Nassau Regional High School. I was one of the classes that he just popped in on one day, and I never forgot that. I was glad to let him know before we left. It was a lot of fun. But we talked about how a lot of music that people enjoy the most is 50% familiarity and 50% surprise. But I'm not really quite sure what's about to happen next, and I wonder if that Pops kind of makes him feel a little bit more from the audience standpoint, like, oh, I'm welcome there, I'm familiar. Whereas the Masters, they just don't really have that same.
I would say that our audience is, we have first of all, we have some of the most dedicated patronage that I have ever experienced across the country. So they care about the orchestra, and this is why I think we take the programming portion very seriously, because we do have some masterpiece. I know at the last concert we did with Concerto for Orchestra with Francisco Noya, who wonderful conductor, wonderful human being. And it was a very difficult show, and he made a lot happen. It was a very difficult program. But it wasn't as well attended as, say, the James Bond show, which sold out both shows. With that being said, that doesn't mean that the Masterpiece concerts are not important. The music is serious, but they have a very loyal, dedicated patronage. And they write to me afterwards. We know that there were some empty seats, but thank you for still doing this music. And that is something, as an institution, we want to constantly demonstrate our commitment to, is that we are committing to continue the Masterpiece series by all means. I was trained, I have 3 degrees in this area, and it's something that I want to see continue. But I am also cognizant of the reality of what it means to keep an organization prospering and sustainable and moving forward. And that is something about the business side with the art side that, we always have to manage. And a lot of times, I know even as Jung Ho and I would speak, we talk about what we want to do, and then we make sure that we're doing something that we know will sell. So if we're doing something that doesn't sell, we've balanced it out, because at the end of the day, it's a zero budget that we want to get to at the end of the season. So it's
Mike, what's the most obscure concert that you would want to do? Is there like some 12th century English Gregorian chants or something that you'd want to do, or what's the most completely unsellable idea that you have?
I don't know. Programming is about, it is a balance of personal taste. And I know as we're working on the 25-26 season right now, believe it or not, I always bring it to, the marketing team, and Amy, our box office wizard, and she will say, yeah, that won't sell. She'll tell you why, because she's been doing it for 20 years. And I'm like, if Amy says no, then I'm going to support it. But for me, I'm a composer by trade, and having published a number of works, I always would like to see something more contemporary. We had the principals of the orchestra. We did a Cape Symphony special event at the Cape Cod Museum of Art last week. And Jay Cosmos put together a quartet of the principal string players with Rion and Jacques Lee and our Danielle Farina, who's now a Cape Cod resident. And they played beautifully, but they did a lot of works that, we had the composer at one of the concerts, and it was all contemporary pieces, but in a very accessible way. And I thought that kind of bold statement of where music is alive. I mean, you turn on the radio, even driving down here, listening to NPR, all we're doing is talking about Taylor Swift's new album. And that's wonderful if you're a Taylor Swift fan. But, there are also a lot of very talented art composers releasing music in the same capacity every day that we're not talking about. And the fact that, championing those types of works is something that I always do. So, and Jay, we share that kindred spirit, as he always brings new music to the fold. And there is, I think, Jessica Meyer's piece next year on one of the shows where he will be, she's a contemporary or is part of a consortium. So I would always lean to program something contemporary. That's not always because, like you said, they like to have something that they know versus something that may surprise them. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
six doesn't have for another.
Very passionate Cape residents when it comes to classical. Of course, we're at Cape Cod Broadcasting. We have WFCC 107.5. That's our Cape Classical station. And I'm going to start forwarding calls to you because I've received some call. We have some very passionate listeners, and I love them. I had a very long conversation with them, our callers who wanted to call and say, like, I love that you guys do we do the Cape Symphony stuff, of course. But it's really nice to have a symphony station in general, a concert station. We've had some other people who will call up and be like, I don't think that was in the right key, because I used to conduct at one point and it was like Scheherazade or something. And then before we knew it, I was talking with him for maybe like 15 minutes about his experience, just because of how it turns out we have a lot of people who love that kind of stuff on Cape Cod. I'm not surprised, of course. It is kind of trends a bit older, but a lot of people who had a lot of experience with this stuff and very passionate. Now, as what you're talking about the Cape Symphony stuff, I can't help but look at this brochure that we have here. Why don't we don't have of the candidates? I'm noticing a distinct lack of Mike Alba. You are the executive director. Was there any internal conversations about whether you could fulfill the role of artistic director yourself?
Yeah, that's not my role. I'm here from behind the scenes administrator of this position. I am not a conductor. If you want me to show up to your house for birthday party to play some Foo Fighters on my electric guitar, I'll be glad to do that. But beyond the backside of it, it's I want somebody else in this position to talk about the virtues of what we do organizationally. I'm quite fine to be the guy behind the curtain when necessary. And we have great people that work for our institution. So I would like the music director to speak of the orchestra when Jay can come speak about it from his perspective, or Joe Marcio, let them speak and tell the programming, because they're the ones that are creating the art. And it's how it should be. And the same thing if you're reaching out to the education, talk to Jennifer Raybold. She's the director of education, or the youth orchestra with Mark Miller and Kyle Spraker, and a preschool with Ann Coolis. It's we have a preschool event going on Sunday on our Barnstable campus, and they told me today there's 190 people coming, and it's just for like 6 years of. So we're like excited just to make sure we have enough food. I'm gonna be back there doing hot dogs or something.
A man of many talents.
Yeah. Do what you need to do. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that you're supportive of your full team. Is it also good to maybe have a little bit of an injection of fresh blood every now and then? Is that another opportunity that we're going to be having with this next artistic director? Someone with some new experiences and maybe fresh ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that each music director, they will bring their own personality to the role, and that's kind of what we want. It's for their orchestra, but one thing we want to do is make sure that everybody's working collaboratively on achieving goals, and at the end of the day, being able to manage an artistic statement within the support of our community is something that we're striving for. It's something that we can do as an institution. We're looking for a teammate to actually help carry this part of the job forward. Sort of like I know the draft is this weekend. If those of you that follow football, which I am an avid football person, we're looking to hire a quarterback in some ways. That's kind of what we're doing. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're going to be loving chatting with some of the people in the coming months. We already have the kind of lineup. If you want to head to capecod.com, we have a little bit more there about all the individuals that are in question. Just because we only have a certain amount of time here for Sunday Journal, so unfortunately we'd be here for 45 minutes checking out all the interesting experiences. But as well, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the upcoming concerts now. Of course, we have the Joy for July, but we also have Star Wars on the horizon. I don't want to spoil next year, but I noticed that we just did Star Wars for A New Hope, and this one's going to be The Empire Strikes Back. Maybe a spoiler alert. Is there potentially the third Return of the Jedi in the future as well?
And that's to clarify, because I know that some people have called the box office and asked, didn't you do Star Wars last year? And yes, Star Wars is a trilogy of 3 films. One that was 1977, one came out in 1980, and one came out in 1983. And we did Star Wars last year, which was a huge success. Both those sold out. So we've just decided to do the trilogy as a whole, which is the original movies that George Lucas did. So The Empire Strikes Back is the next one that we are doing this summer. And then the following summer will be Return of the Jedi.
All right, awesome.
So they are different films, but it is the same wonderful John Williams music that we've all come to love.
I was blown away. You guys had been asking a little bit, around the area, like, oh, what kind of music are you looking forward to and stuff like that. And of course, immediately my mind is like, the Imperial March. Bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum. That That's not in that movie? It's not in A New Hope, as it turns out.
No, it's in the second one.
It's in this one upcoming. So I was tested on my Star Wars knowledge. So maybe for people who were missing out on one song or another, here we are now. But Joy for July, it's the 4th of July. That's a relatively new initiative that you guys have been doing. That's been a collaboration with Barnstable. Do you mind just talking a little bit more about that to help kick off the summer season as we're feeling some warmer weather?
Yeah, this is, I want to give some credit to Matt Levesque and Mark Ells, myself and our board chair, Ellen Dickinson at the time. We're in a meeting with them talking about something completely unrelated. And I remember Mark saying, well, how come the symphony's not performing here anymore? And why you guys aren't doing things? And it was just like, well, because you've never asked or we've never thought. And I remember it was a very kind of off the cuff. And Mark Ells he's a brilliant guy. He's very smart and recognized individual in our town administration. And Matt, who is a big, he works with us quite frequently. They're both two people that I love working with in the town of Barnstable. And so we followed up, and sure enough, they agreed. We sort of split the costs for the performances, and we did it that first summer, and it was a huge hit. We had a couple thousand people show up, and we decided to continue it. So this is sort of headed up by Perkins and Amy Harwood from the town, and there's a whole event, and Elizabeth Worthbane, who's doing great work with the bid, and just it's a whole town of Hyannis coming together to put on a holiday concert, and we get to end cap it with a performance. It'll be conducted by Joe Marcio, and it's a free show. Get your tent out early. I remember when we were setting up the first time, there was like chairs at like 9 a.m. There's chairs. We're putting the stage together. There's 9 a.m. There's all these chairs laid out, and they just let them go, and they were there when we came back at 7. And believe it or not, it's like, this is a great town that you could set your chair up, and 8 hours later, come back and your chairs are still there.
We have a lot of trust here on Cape Cod, is what I'm gathering.
So it demonstrates the resolve of the community to help share an event. And so
here at Cape Cod Broadcasting Media, I don't endorse it, but it is very interesting that you're capable of doing that in this local area. It's a lot of fun. It is interesting. Once again, that tie with like local public outreach and some of the local towns and stuff. You guys are almost I don't want to say municipal service, but obviously you guys do a lot of things across Cape Cod that maybe are outside the general wheelhouse of Symphony. So very interesting. Of course, Star Wars, we already chatted about that. That's Saturday, July 27th. Last year we talked about it, and then like 3 days later, the tickets are already sold. Yeah. So is there still space for this one? How popular
there is still space for that one. There's always the initial rush that goes with the announcement, and I think the press release got sent out today. So they'll start flying. They'll go quickly today. And of course, once the summer product, we do the pushing, there's always this big rush, and then there's a lull, and then there's another rush towards the end. So we're in that opening rush stage.
Now, will you be dressing up for this event? Will you be Darth Vader in that capacity?
Last year, we had, I think it was the 501st. There is a Northeast regiment, and I believe that they will be engaged to do this again. They had 13 members show up. One came in, and their costumes were completely were amazing, actually. I was kind of blown away from this. The level of intricacy in their costumes. And they came and did a great job, greeted everybody. And I will probably dress in my customary black as I did last year. But it'll be fun. It'll be a good event for the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as well, the last part we have the Livingston Taylor is going to be for the final of the summer, August 18th. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I always credit the Melody Tent and Vince Longo, who has been there for many years, and Vince always wants wanted to always make sure he engages the orchestra every other season, and we always appreciate that. They're a huge supporter of arts in the community. I know they have a foundation, gives out a lot of wonderful grants, and so when we didn't do something last year because of a scheduling conflict, we were trying to do a show with Pink Martini, so we figured we'll just bump it to this summer. And then we got a call from one of the agents for Livingston Taylor, reached out, was looking for an orchestra to do it. And Livingston Taylor has a long history here on Cape Cod. And we thought, what if we took this show to the Melody Tent? And that was kind of how it came about. So Livingston Taylor wrote a new album, and it's all orchestral, and with him performing. And we saw some of the advanced stuff and said, oh my God, this would be a fun show to do at the Melody Tent. So that's where we are. It's in August, I think, 18th. And tickets, I know when tickets launch, we've already half sold already, and it's still a good 6 months away. So jump on that one if you want to see Livingston Taylor with Your Cape Symphony. It's going to be a great show.
All right, awesome. Now we're about coming up on time, unfortunately, but is there anything else you wanted to highlight for our listeners about the hunt for the next artistic director, or teasing some upcoming shows?
Um, Well, we do have our Elton John show sold out. So,
Well,
I'm going to guide you. If you're going to go, I look forward to seeing you there. But I would like to push everybody to June with the show called Our Ocean. This show is a collaboration with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and we're very excited about it. And it's one we hope actually will continue for many years in the future. Is Woods Hole is an internationally known scientific organization that researches and studies the ocean, which is the necessity for our life. And because there's so much correlation between art and music and science, when we proposed this with them, they thought it was a wonderful idea. And a lot of people at Woods Hole are just as excited to be partnering with the Symphony as we are to be partnering with Woods Hole. So we have an event that we're doing on their campus Friday with the meet and greet and some things. And then we have some scientists coming to give the pre-concert lectures for the Saturday Sunday show. So it'll be a chance to really have an opportunity to talk about what they're doing at Woods Hole and what we do in the collaboration with the Symphony. And that's kind of what the community is all about. We're supporting each other on Cape Cod. And this is an aspect of Cape Cod to be very proud of. They do a lot more than just find the Titanic, which I learned was by accident, by the way.
Hard to beat that accolade, as it turns out. But apparently they have a very deep connection with a lot of maritime studies across the nation. Apparently, a lot of international papers have cited many a Woods Hole scientists that I've been learning recently. Hopefully, we'll have actually the director on soon for Sunday Journal. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Mike. I do appreciate it a lot for joining for this conversation.
Okay, and thanks everybody, and hope to see you guys at our concerts in the future.
I'm Grady Kalainen. Thank you for listening to Sunday Journal.